Hi, everyone. This is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are going to refresh on some of the major transits of January in light of the current events. So much for trying to take a political vacation. I was like, I reached out to Kat and I was like, we were going to do this promotional video on the Bhagavad Gita, which about the Bhagavad Gita, about the spiritual practice of reading the Gita every day, and about an upcoming free Gita class that I'm promoting for anyone who wants to join. So that was the plan for today. And I was like, Kat, a lot of people have been emailing me asking me about the astrology in light of the current events here in the U.S. So maybe I should do something about that, and we'll run the Gita on Friday. And she was like, "Well, so much for taking a few days off and a little political break. Yeah, January probably isn't the month to do something like that because this month is crazy. Like this and February, June is pretty bonkers. There's some crazy transits over the summer. The end of the year, there's some other transits. What we're looking at over and over again are the interactions between Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus, which are unfolding right now. So I want to go ahead and bring up the real-time clock and just give you a sense of where things are at, and unpack some of the timelines. I'm telling you right now, between today and really the weekend, it's not an ideal time to get into it with people. I'll tell you why. I mean, just for those of us who, are just sort of on the sidelines watching things unfold, like I would take cover. Just because, look, you've got a fallen moon in Scorpio in Mars's sign. That's going to run through essentially into Saturday, early Saturday morning. And as it's doing so, it is now opposite to its debilitated host Mars, who is now moving into a square with Saturn and Jupiter, and moving into a conjunction with Uranus. So, even the next couple of days, it's tough because Mars is also averse to its host, right? You have Venus as its host in late Sagittarius, and they're not connected. So when will they connect? Well, by tomorrow they will, but today is still pretty dicey. So you want to I would just be careful, frankly, until the moon's gotten into Sagittarius and you see Venus tomorrow, Saturday, certainly you'll see the energy lift a little bit, but it's a pretty intense moment. It's the end of a cycle, right? You've got the moon winding down in its fall in the late waning crescent phase, with a debilitated Mars starting to really get lit up this month. So yeah, I just, take care. And, it doesn't, one thing that I repeat to myself is, it doesn't have to happen all at once, whatever it might be. I'm just talking about the news or whatever, but just the feeling of purging, cleansing, relieving, eliminating, concluding, could be a little challenging right now. It's a time in a cycle where we're really trying to rest and let the natural breakdown and decay of the old finally release and the new begin. And that's something that you're going to see happening up until the new moon. But remember, this new moon, just to give you a sense of it, this new moon is going to be brought to you by the Sun-Pluto conjunction. So if you think the next moon cycle is going to be, like a cakewalk, it's not. I don't know what else to say. Like the signature of the next moon cycle has the look of the death of a solar figure. And at least in the US, there's a transition of power taking place that is extremely contentious right now. And of course, Inauguration Day's astrology looks bonkers. So I don't know. It's like, if you guys heard me do my January overview, or if you heard me do my astrology of 2021 video, this month and February are very intense months in the year. Maybe January, arguably right out the gate, one of the most powerful months of the year. There's some over the summer too, but yeah. Anyway, look at what's happening just so you get a picture of the timeline. So this new moon is going to come through by Tuesday of next week, right? And right as it does so, you're going to see, I mean, right out the gate, there's a Mars-Saturn square. So the intensity is there. Mars-Saturn generally can combine in two ways. So here, I'm going to just write it out because I know some people like tracking it like this. So we're going to say Mars equals action and conflict. Now that could be good or bad. You know, some conflicts are necessary. Sometimes taking action is just is a really good thing. And sometimes action and conflict are, you know, there's a reason that Mars is called the god of war. Now, on the other hand, you have Saturn. When it combines with Mars, especially, tends to bring out the rigidity or the, let's say, the discipline or the authority complex. I'm going to call it the complex because it's usually a little bit with Mars, a little bit more like authoritarianism. And you also have mobilization of will and resources. And this is combining now with Mars, right? So you also have the potential for a pressure cooker. And by pressure cooker, I mean, it's like an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Like, you know, a pressure cooker is used correctly is a fine instrument of, you know, I guess it's like a, you know, it can be, has a functional use and purpose. I've heard Jen Zart, one of my colleagues, one time talk about Saturn Mars, like the pressure cooker of cramming for your finals or the deadline of, you know, like a dissertation or something like that. So it's like hard, disciplined work, that kind of work ethic, very productive potential energy. But the downside of this energy, frankly, is, you know, the extreme force, militaristic, rigid qualities. So look at what we're seeing, right? I mean, we're seeing a sort of, we're seeing armed conflict in the nation's capital, for God's sake. So that's, and this is par for the course with Saturn re-entering Aquarius. Let us not forget that, you know, we talked about Saturn in Aquarius a number of times last year, the end of 2020. And we said, you know, Saturn in Aquarius has its ideals about the future and what the future should look like. And it can get very fanatical and intense about those things. And sometimes something that's supposed to just be, you know, some kind of political or ideological demonstration, whether you agree with it or not. I'm not talking about whether anything or anyone in particular. It can go off the rails. That can happen. That's a Saturn in Aquarius type of quality where the insistence upon some particular ideology, political belief, or desired outcome for the future will just become, it's like it reaches a fever pitch in Aquarius. And, you know, think about it last spring, right? We had demonstrations, political demonstrations that in some cases turned really intense, went off the rails. You see something like that, you know, I'm not saying I agree with it or anything like that, but I'm just saying, and I'm not equivocating the two, they're not identical at all, but you can see the intensity of, you know, groups of people that have very strong ideas politically, ideologically, socially, culturally, and the feeling of needing to assert one's goals, ideologically speaking, and to do so with like the potential mixture of like authority and conflict and things like that. And there was a strong Mars presence last summer too. If you go back to just take a look at what was happening last spring. I'll go back. So you had right as Saturn had entered Aquarius, you know, Mars was in Aquarius too. That was last spring. I won't recap everything that was happening, but yeah, you can see this kind of stuff. And then, you know, by the, you know, June was a very intense month, obviously. And you had, by the end of June, you also had Mars getting into Aries. So you always have to watch kind of like, you know, when I'm just telling you right now, when Saturn's in Aquarius, it can bring out the best in us in terms of our hopes for the future. And it can also bring out the worst. So that's what it is. All right. Anyway, so we go forward to a little bit further this month, and you are going to see on about January 14th into the 15th, after the new moon, you're going to see Uranus station and turn direct. Now, this direct moment is a big turning point, and that turning point is happening as Jupiter is squaring Uranus. This is a marker of very intense, powerful, kind of revolutionary energy with a lot of ideological zeal behind it, being totally, there's like gasoline being poured on the fire with a debilitated Mars in the mix and Saturn, right? So it's going to be really hard for anyone at all to avoid getting grabbed by these energies. And even so, here's my like list of things to watch for in yourself, because okay, that's the news, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. If you take it forward just a little bit more, I mean, actually, before I do this, you've got Jupiter squaring Uranus right around the 17th, and right as that's happening, then by the 20th, on Inauguration Day, you're going to see a conjunction between Mars and Uranus, and like then the moon will be in Aries for part of that day, but then it jumps into Taurus, and you've got a first quarter square between the lights on that day, signature of Mars, with loads of squares right between all of these three planets. That's really intense. That's a super, super intense day. And so, and that's not where it stops either. Then you go forward a little bit more, and you're going to have a look at the full moon. So the full moon is going to be engaging the sun and Jupiter in a square with Mars. This is by the 28th. And then Mercury is going to turn retrograde at the end of the month. So, we'll unpack these transits one day at a time. Just like, oh my God. We're going to unpack them one day at a time and just kind of stay with them. But let's back up from the whole what's happening in the collective, because it's a big spectacle. And let's talk about how to handle these energies personally. So like I said, how do you get the best out of Mars, Saturn? Combine the work, the action, the perseverance, the determination, the discipline, and the maturity of Mars and Saturn right now. Be your best self. It's there to support you. You can use that same energy that could be militaristic, authoritarian, rigid, aggressive, self-righteous, puritanical, about anything or whatever, about your work, about your relationships, anything, and turn that into the hardworking, persevering, mature, sober qualities that can be very productive. That's my simple advice for everybody. Not that I'm going to succeed at it. That's what I'm going to try to do myself. Then remember that Jupiter, Uranus, there's a lot of the potential for there to be some amazing breakthroughs this month, epiphanies, revolutions in your thought, your work, your relationships, hope, the feeling of expanding beyond old limitations, kind of that new order, that new way of being. Like, that's a big promise this month. So don't let Mars Mars and Saturn in the mix of it, the malefics can kind of crap all over that potentially. So, guard your joy and guard your hope. And also just a simple month to like not cast your pearl, right? Like it's a moment where there's likely going to be some people throwing tomatoes at you no matter what you do or say, whether it's like people that you work with or people in your family or people, your friends or whatever. There's going to be contentiousness around the things that you're most excited about or around the new hope that you're feeling. It could be mixed with having to face some really hard, sobering realities or working through some really contentious dynamics, right as you're also feeling like this big lift and a lot of wind in your sails. So that's the combination this month. And I mean, take shelter of these are, it's like, if it's a storm, where do you take shelter? Well, you find an umbrella if it's not too bad, or you get inside a house if it's really bad. Where do we take shelter? All right, well, I'm just going to put some simple ones for me. Humility. take shelter in humility. My guru likes to say, I live to be corrected. So don't try to be the man. Don't try to be right about everything. Don't try to, be on top. Don't let your righteousness stress you out. You know what I mean? It's the easiest way to be happy is to be humble and to try to serve other people, thinking more about how could my family use my help, how my spouse or my kids or my friends or my work, or what's something that I can do, and do it without drawing a lot of attention to yourself. Take shelter of selfless service and humility this month. It's a simple antidote to all poisonous atmospheres. The best you can. The other thing that I would take shelter of is patience. There's going to be the feeling of like growing wings this month. That's what Jupiter Uranus is. It's this very revolutionary, expansive energy. Saturn Mars is going to make this a time that you have to persevere at the exact same time that you're wanting to take off. So patience. Now, are we saying anything that doesn't apply to any day of life? No, not really, right? People always say, how do I get the most out of my chart? Or, where is it in my chart that I have to grow? It's like, it's not in your chart. It's any chart whatsoever, if you just add into the pot of your life, some doses of humility, some doses of patience, among other virtues, that's how you get the most out of your chart, because that's how you get the most out of any chart. And that's how you get the most out of life, right? These are the teachings of all great spiritual traditions. And these are the signs and markers of great spiritual beings, whether we're talking about Black Elk or the Dalai Lama, or we're talking about a Hindu sage or Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter. It's humility and patience. Those are where we take shelter. And then take shelter of quiet. This month, it doesn't always have to be quiet, but this month, try taking shelter of quiet joy. What do I mean by that? I mean, have a secret. I watch my daughters every day. And my daughters, they play and they make up games, and they always have secrets. I've noticed, they always have a little secret space, a little secret place for their toys or their doll, or a little secret hiding place that they create, and they build worlds. And, we're so obsessed with thinking that our happiness needs external validation. Our happiness and our sense of joy needs to be always displayed for others, so that everyone knows, hey, I'm happy. Look, can't you see from the pictures or from this or that or whatever? And, the soul, James Hillman said that the soul loves secrets. So why does the soul love secrets? Because the soul is like one of those flowers that only opens at night, and then it closes back up during the day. It's very secretive, nocturnal type of flower. It needs gentleness. It's vulnerable. It's fragile. Goodness is that way. It's shy. It's something that has to feel safe to come out. And what coaxes it out is when we keep small little secrets, and they just beautiful ones. I'm not talking about secrets about other people or a secret agenda, or I'm talking about just a secret sense of satisfaction or happiness. I find that if I can keep within my heart the secret excitement about reading something that I really love at the end of the day, that's my secret for the day, is that all I can think about is sitting down with, for me, it's often the Bhagavad Gita, or it's something else that I really love, but I just keep that inside all day, no matter what's happening. And that's my little secret. And that way, the soul in me, that's like this gentle little flower, it doesn't open up all the time. Talking for you guys like this is, as you guys know, it's a persona. It's my social face. And I try to be as authentic as I can. I'm certainly not saying I'm fake, but you know what it's like to have that part of you just blossom and come out and feel so deeply comfortable. And the soul has to have some secrets for that part to feel like it's co-present when, our social operating mechanisms are at work. So keep a few secrets this month, keep a few secrets in terms of how you see things happening in the world, or your beliefs or your opinions about what's happening, or your joy or anything. Just share those in the depth of your heart with the soul of your soul, and just keep it for the two of you, you know? So anyway, those are my pieces of advice if they're helpful. If not, feel free to discard. So anyway, I just want to do a little update today on the intensity of these energies, just kind of recapping them. We'll move through some of them, you know, in the next week again, and I hope that this can be a place that you draw on some positive, you know, spiritual and astrological nourishment as we go through a very intense month of January. So, the last thing is, up until Sunday, we're still running the Kickstarter discounts because some people wanted, you know, asked if they could still get a hold of either tuition or the 2021 Astrology of 2021 video, or your Sun or Rising Sign horoscope for 2021 video, or the calendars that come with them and stuff like that. So if you have any interest in any of those, up until Sunday, you can still take advantage of those. Email us info@nightlightastrology.com. Tomorrow, please stay tuned because I'm interviewing two of my teachers, Loka and Vidarbha, about the Bhagavad Gita, and they are hosting a really awesome, I think it's about a 6 to 8 month long Bhakti Bhagavad Gita study group. It's totally free. It's online. You're going to meet them tomorrow and hear about their study group and see how you can sign up if that's something you're interested in. The Bhagavad Gita is an everyday part of my spiritual life. I have read a chapter a day of the Gita for going on 3 years now. And it's so special to me. So I hope that you might benefit from hearing more about it tomorrow. All right. Take care, everyone.